On a recent trip home, I had to fly into the airport after midnight. At that time of night, there are not a lot of people around, and it appeared that ours may have been the last flight in for the day. They start up again pretty early in the airport, so the cleaning crews were out getting the place spiffy for the next day. In our society, divided by race, one becomes familiar with the faces of new or relatively new third-world immigrants doing the dirty work, sweeping and mopping airport bathrooms at midnight. Who would otherwise choose to do this for a living but those forced into it? Yet, someone must do the dirty work, sweeping, landscaping, picking up the trash. There's no good reason why these jobs can't be dignified, because they are essential to any society. But of course, in our society where money rules and profit is God, the big issues for the people who work behind the scenes are the same issues of survival that face the rest of us. The people working behind the scenes just have the worst hours and face some of the greatest exploitation. Anyway, the people cleaning up this big airport were not the ones you might expect. As a matter of fact, they looked more like the women from the TV show Golden Girls than like the more defenseless non-English speakers who often have no choice but to accept that kind of work in those kinds of conditions. These airport janitors were mostly 50-ish, white and female. It was the age that really bothered me, I suppose. A few years back, my own parents looked like that. My folks are older now, but the women sweeping the airport walkways at 2 a.m. could have been my mom. Even more disturbing is the likelihood that these women, slaving away in the middle of the night, are somebody's grandmothers. If we respected human beings in our society, we would, of course, still have people who cleaned, but those people would make at least a living wage. In fact, they would make an above-average wage because of the sacrifice they make to help us all. But this is not the case, and it seemed to me that these average, over 50 middle-class looking people were there because they'd been downsized, laid off, or had retired, but our society does not have any sense of human decency. So, instead of enjoying what we call the golden years, these people were slaving away behind the scenes. In the end, some might say, it's just self-interest which motivates my disgust at the way people who have worked for decades end up being treated. I don't want to end up sweeping and mopping bathrooms in the middle of the night in the autumn of my years. Do you? And I resent that I must be a party to this kind of treatment of anyone. Certainly, someone must do the dirty work. Someone must work in the middle of the night and on weekends and holidays. But we have far too many people who are forced to take jobs with these kinds of hours just to survive. And that's not right. It's not dignified, and we should feel ashamed that instead of enjoying retirement, many, many people are forced into difficult jobs at slave wages just to survive. There is more to life than money, the making or, more importantly, buying of things. There are more important things in life than markets and status symbols. Far too many of us are not left with any time in the day or in our lives to really live. We are slaves to a system of private profit, which provides for the luxurious treatment and lifestyles of a few, while the majority live in degradation, and more in squalor. I heard on the news a while back that the highest paid person in the world, that is, someone whose income is measured in a salary, including bonuses, is the head of an international bank. This man made more than $31 million in 1996. Think about that. While some people in this country have to work 2 jobs just to reach the official poverty level, other people are making that much money every single minute of the year. How can it be that one human being's labor is worth one amount for a year's service, and another human being's labor is worth even more than that amount for a mere minute's service? I'll guarantee you, there isn't a banker alive who accomplishes as much in any minute as a janitor accomplishes in a year. In fact, I would hazard a guess that the reality is completely reversed, that most janitors accomplish more every minute than any CEO of a bank accomplishes in an entire year. Certainly, the janitors work harder every minute than the bankers do in a year. But this is the difference between owning or managing and actually working. And it is a disgrace for which we as a nation and as citizens of the world ought to feel outraged and insulted, because we are being insulted. This is Richard Curtis.